The sharp clang of weights echoed through the pristine gym as three large bodybuilders loomed over a lone black man at the bench press. Their loud voices sliced through the hum of background chatter. "Hey, this ain't your spot, buddy," one of them barked, snatching the man's weights and tossing them aside like trash. Another flexed in the mirror, sneering. "Let's see if he even knows how to handle real weights," he mocked. The black man, mid-30s, respectful and reserved, raised his hands in a calm gesture. "Hey, I'm just trying to finish my set." "I wasn't bothering anyone," he said softly, his voice tight with restraint. But his eyes betrayed the familiar sting of being singled out. He stepped back, trying to give them space, hoping to avoid conflict. The humiliation lingered, his dignity eroding under the weight of their sneers. The tallest of the bullies blocked his path, smirking. "What's wrong? Can't handle a little competition?" Another shoved him off the machine, making him stumble. "Didn't know they let everyone in here," one muttered venomously. Their laughter grew louder, their cruelty escalating. It was no longer about fitness. It was about dominance, about showing him he didn't belong. The black man clenched his jaw but said nothing. Around them, other gym-goers averted their eyes. Some glanced up, uncomfortable, but quickly returned to their routines. A few whispered, uneasy yet frozen. No one intervened. No trainers, no management, just silence hanging heavy between the jabs and laughter. The bullies fed off the silence, growing bolder with each ignored second. It was as if the entire gym had decided it was easier not to see. In the far corner, Jason Statham sat on a bench, adjusting a dumbbell, dressed casually, his expression unreadable. He watched the scene unfold without saying a word, his eyes sharp, his posture relaxed yet alert. He wasn't there to show off, nor to interfere. But something in his gaze shifted as the bullies pressed in. Calculating, waiting. One of the bullies grabbed the black man by the shirt and shoved him hard against the wall, grinning. "You should have stayed home," he growled. The gym fell completely silent. Jason calmly dropped his towel, stood up, and stepped forward. Before we continue, like and subscribe to catch Jason Statham's epic face-off with the racist bullies, and comment where you're watching from today. The gym pulsed with intensity beneath its polished exterior. It wasn't just any fitness center. It was an upscale sanctuary where luxury met discipline. Pristine floors gleamed under the bright lights, reflecting the chrome edges of high-end equipment. Every machine was perfectly aligned, as if staged for a commercial. The scent of fresh towels mixed with the faint traces of cologne, lingering beneath the rhythmic clang of weights. Trainers moved briskly, voices low, offering clipped encouragement. The steady hum of treadmills, the beat of music, and occasional bursts of laughter formed a constant backdrop. But behind the shine, an unspoken hierarchy existed. Regulars flexed and postured, carving invisible territories. Glances were exchanged, status assessed. In this gym, strength was currency, and appearances dictated rank. Amid it all, Jason Statham blended in effortlessly. Dressed in a plain black t-shirt, gray workout pants, and well-worn sneakers, he looked like any other focused gym-goer. He moved with precision, wasting no motion and drawing no attention. His sharp eyes scanned the room between sets. Calm, methodical, never distracted. Whether adjusting weights, stretching, or wiping down equipment, every action was deliberate. His lean, powerful frame spoke volumes without any theatrics. There was no posturing, no need to prove himself. Yet it was something in his calm presence, the controlled intensity in his gaze, that kept people at a respectful distance. He wasn't there to make friends. He was there with purpose. And he missed nothing. A few machines away, the black man remained focused on his routine. In his early 30s, with an athletic build, he dressed simply and moved with quiet determination. After each set, he wiped down his station, nodded politely, and kept to himself. His eyes remained fixed on the task at hand, every movement disciplined, not driven by ego but by respect for the work at hand. It was the kind of experience that comes only after years of maintaining composure, avoiding unnecessary attention. Jason carried himself with humility, yet there was a firmness in his demeanor. He wasn't there to compete, but his posture, subtle and poised, suggested he knew how quickly control could be taken away. The disruption came in the form of 3 bodybuilders who dominated the corner of the gym as if they owned it. Loud, cocky, and flexing their muscles under the bright lights, they were known regulars who thrived on the attention. High fives after every set, jokes thrown loudly enough to claim the room. Every move was a show. Their laughter wasn't inclusive. It was a declaration of dominance. They barked at staff, left equipment scattered, and shot dismissive glances at anyone they deemed beneath them. They weren't there to train. They were there to intimidate. Jason's eyes flicked toward them, early on, narrowing ever so slightly as he adjusted his grip on the barbell. It was subtle, barely noticeable, but enough. He had seen men like them before. He knew exactly how they operated, and he knew it was only a matter of time before they crossed a line. The bullies' voices grew louder, spilling across the gym like a bad smell. One of them, a thick-necked man with arms the size of tree trunks, casually walked over to the bench where the black man had just racked his weights. Without asking, he yanked one of the dumbbells off the rack and tossed it aside with a smirk. Didn't know this bench was reserved, he sneered, flexing as if expecting applause. The second bully leaned over the black man's shoulder, voice dripping with mockery. "You sure you're in the right place, bro? Looks like you're out of your league." The third bully blocked the man's path as he tried to move toward another machine. Nah, you gotta earn your spot first," he said, his voice dipping low. "Or maybe you should stick to a different gym, one where they let anyone in." "There," laughter echoed, sharp and ugly. The black man stood still, jaw clenched, eyes flicking between them, but he said nothing. The bullies' energy fed off each other, like sharks circling. They shoved another weight off the rack, the metallic clang reverberating, daring anyone to intervene. But no one did. Nearby gym-goers shifted awkwardly, casting quick glances before returning to their routines. Some paused, headphones dangling, eyes flicking to the scene before quickly turning away. Trainers at the desk exchanged quiet looks but kept their distance. Nobody wanted to get involved. The black man straightened his shoulders, refusing to react. He bent down silently to pick up the weights they had tossed aside, wiping them down without a word. His gaze remained low, controlled, determined to de-escalate the situation. Every small action, calm, precise, spoke volumes. He had likely faced worse before, but there was no mistaking the flush rising in his cheeks, the humiliated tension rippling beneath the surface. The tallest bully stepped closer, blocking him. Again. He leaned in with a grin. "What's the matter, cat got your tongue?" His friend barked a laugh. Maybe he doesn't speak gym etiquette. Deliberately, they moved in closer, cornering him between 2 machines. One jabbed a finger into his chest. "You deaf or just dumb?" The black man exhaled through his nose, keeping his hands down. "Look, I'm just trying to finish my workout. Let me be, man." The words only fueled their arrogance. One bully grabbed the man's towel from a nearby bench and tossed it to the floor like trash. Another shoved him backward, chuckling. "Maybe you're done now." The crowd's discomfort thickened. Whispers flitted between gym-goers. Some exchanged glances. A few lifted their phones, but no one stepped forward. It was easier to let it play out, easier not to get involved. Jason watched, from his station unmoving. His gaze tracked every shove, every mocking word, steady but not indifferent. Then the bullies took it further. The second bully grabbed the black man's arm as he tried to walk away, spinning him around and shoving him hard into a weight rack. "Don't walk off now. We're just getting started." The third moved to block his exit, arms crossed, lips curled in a smirk. "Maybe you need to learn some manners." The gym felt smaller suddenly, the sound of clanging weights replaced by a heavy silence. All eyes shifted, watching but unwilling to intervene. Jason stood slowly, folding his towel in one practiced motion. He did not speak, but the tension in the room was palpable. Jason didn't rush. He took a single step forward and the air shifted, subtle but sharp. The bullies didn't notice, but others did. A ripple of murmurs spread as eyes flicked toward the quiet figure moving steadily toward the confrontation. Controlled, measured like a predator closing in. Jason's gaze never left the bullies. Not a word, not a warning, just one step closer. Finally, one of the bullies noticed the shadow standing just a step too close. He turned, sizing Jason up with a smirk. Recognition flickered across his face, quickly twisting into mockery. "Wait a minute," the bully called, his voice carrying across the room and drawing his friend's attention. He chuckled, nudging one of them. "Ain't this that action movie guy? What's his name? Jason? Something?" The others followed his gaze, their faces lighting up with crude amusement. "Oh yeah, it's him," another laughed. "Didn't know they let Hollywood types in here. Thought you'd be busy filming fight scenes, not playing pretend in a real gym." They exchanged glances, the cockiness in their voices swelling. "Relax, superstar," one of them quipped, waving Jason off dismissively. "We're handling things over here, go back to your little movie sets." Their laughter sliced through the gym, sharp and mocking. To them, Jason was just another actor, famous maybe, but harmless. A man used to stunt doubles and cameras, not real confrontation. They saw no threat, no reason to back down. Jason didn't react. His gaze remained steady, locked on the bullies without a flicker of emotion. He stood still, hands loose at his sides, posture relaxed and unbothered, unmoved by their bait, refusing to give them the satisfaction of a response. His silence was unnerving, but they were too wrapped up in their own bravado to notice. Across the room, murmurs began to ripple. What started as a few whispers exchanged between gym-goers, now paused mid-set, turned into a low hum of recognition. Eyes widened, phones discreetly lifted. Someone near the front desk leaned toward a friend, murmuring, "That's Jason Statham." Recognition spread like wildfire. People began to shift, abandoning treadmills, stepping away from machines. Heads turned and the air thickened. It was no longer just a scene between bullies and a victim. There was a shift, a subtle but unmistakable change in the dynamic. The awareness spread that something had changed. But Jason remained motionless, unfazed by the growing whispers. His focus remained solely on the bullies, his calm more unnerving than any outburst. The tallest bully, sensing the shift in attention but not understanding its significance, decided to escalate. He took a step closer to Jason, puffing out his chest and widening his smirk. "Look, man, I don't care who you are. Movie star or not, this ain't your business." Without warning, he shoved Jason hard in the shoulder. The room went dead, quiet. Even his friends stopped laughing. Their grins faltered slightly as they waited for Jason's reaction. Jason didn't flinch. He simply straightened his shoulders, his eyes narrowing ever so slightly. Not in anger, but in focus. No theatrics, no raised voice, just the unmistakable shift. The kind that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. The crowd held its breath. Something was about to snap. The tallest bully's shove lingered in the air, the tension razor sharp. Jason remained still, unreadable. The silence unsettled everyone, except the bullies. With a quick glance exchanged, they decided to finish. "Let's show him how it's done," one of them muttered. Without warning, all three lunged at Jason simultaneously. One aimed straight for his chest, shoulder lowered like a battering ram. The second swung a thick arm toward Jason's, jaw confident it would connect. The third circled behind, preparing to grab him in a chokehold, ready to prove dominance in front of the growing crowd. It was chaos. Three heavy bodies converging, fists clenched, smirks wide and confident. Jason moved like a switch flipped. He sidestepped the first attacker effortlessly, letting the man's momentum carry him forward and straight into a weight rack with a loud crash. Before the second could adjust, Jason caught his wrist mid-swing and twisted sharply. A crack echoed, followed by a sharp grunt of pain. Without pausing, Jason stepped into the space between them, fluid, controlled. His elbow drove hard into the second bully's ribs, another brutal impact that forced the air from the man's lungs. The third bully lunged from behind, but Jason was already a step ahead. The third bully, trying to retreat, backed toward the mirrors, his chest heaving. Jason advanced, his eyes locked on the man, expression unreadable. The bully swung wildly, desperation taking over. Jason caught the punch midair, twisting sharply at the wrist and forcing the man to his knees. One precise elbow connected with his temple, and the bully crumpled, dazed, his limbs slack. All confidence drained from the bully's face. What had started as mockery had spiraled into something entirely out of their control. Jason's breathing remained steady, barely breaking a sweat. The first bully scrambled to his feet, now desperate, his face flushed with rage. He grabbed a metal barbell from the floor, swinging it like a weapon. Jason sidestepped, his hand shooting out to grab the bar mid-swing. With one fluid motion, he yanked it free, spun it low, and swept the bully's legs out from under him. The man crashed down hard, gasping, the barbell clattering uselessly beside him. He did not get up. The second bully, still pinned by the resistance, band writhed but could not free himself. The third, dazed and staggering, tried to crawl away, pushing himself toward the exit. Jason calmly stepped in front of him. Without a word, he grabbed the man by the collar, hauled him up, and delivered one final devastating punch square to the jaw. The bully collapsed, motionless. Silence swallowed the room. The once smug, dominant trio now lay scattered across the gym floor, broken, breathless, defeated. No one spoke, no laughter, no taunts. The crowd stared, stunned. Every person in the room had witnessed the shift, had seen real strength unfold before them, not in showy flexes or loud voices, but in calm, calculated precision. Jason adjusted, his shirt, his gaze sweeping briefly over the fallen bullies. Not a word passed his lips. He stepped back, muscles relaxed, unfazed, as if it had been nothing more than another part of his workout. The bullies groaned quietly on the floor, reduced to shadows of the cocky figures they had been just minutes earlier. The gym remained utterly still, every eye locked on Jason. No one dared break the silence. The weight of what had just unfolded hung thick in the air. Jason stood over the crumpled bodies, his gaze level and unflinching. Without raising his voice, he looked down at the first bully, who was groaning on the floor. "Get up," Jason said. There was no threat in his tone, just quiet authority that left no room for argument. The bully struggled to his feet, wobbling, face flushed, eyes darting toward his friends, looking for an escape. Jason's gaze didn't waver. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. The second and third bullies, bruised and breathless, dragged themselves upright. They glanced around, suddenly aware of the dozens of eyes locked onto them, phones raised, whispers spreading like wildfire. One of them swallowed hard. "We're sorry," he muttered. Jason shook his head once, sharply. "Look at him. Say it. Properly." They turned, faces drained of all their earlier bravado, now staring at the black man they had mocked. Their voices cracked as they spoke, words rushed. "We're sorry, man. Shouldn't have disrespected you." The crowd watched. Stunned, no bravado left, no smirks. The air was thick with humiliation. The black man, still catching his breath, nodded once, not needing more. He stepped forward, his eyes slightly shining, his voice quiet. "Thank you," he said softly to Jason. "I didn't think anyone—" He trailed off, his emotion lingering in the air. A flicker of something crossed Jason's face, a brief crack in his calm. Years of restraint, of keeping his composure, lifted in an instant. He gave a simple nod. No need for words around them. Whispers rippled through the room. The gym-goers, who had stood frozen moments earlier, now leaned in, phones raised to capture every second. Murmurs echoed, "That's really him. Did you see how fast he handled all three, like it was nothing?" Respect spread through the room. Not loud, not shouted, but palpable. Something unspoken lingered, a shared understanding that they'd witnessed real strength. Jason didn't wait for applause. He picked up his towel from the bench, slung it casually over his shoulder. No need to look back. No need for validation. Without fanfare, he walked toward the exit, cutting through the crowd as if they weren't even there. Heads turned as he passed, but no one dared stop him. The doors slid shut behind him. leaving the stunned Jim in his wake. The gym slowly returned to its routine, but something lingered. A shift no one would forget. What had unfolded wasn't just a fight, it was a lesson. Strength isn't measured by volume, by muscle size, or by how loudly you command attention. It's measured by how you use it. The bullies had mistaken intimidation for power, dominance for respect. But real strength lies in restraint, in knowing when to stand up not to prove a point but to protect someone who can't. Jason Statham didn't need to announce himself. He didn't need the spotlight. He simply acted when others wouldn't. That's what left the lasting impression, not the punches but the principle. Because the strongest people don't show off. They protect others without saying a word.